guys, so let's go ahead and check out the Pandora's Box 5S Bartop arcade machine here. I'm going to show you some of the improvements and things that I've done to it. Now, at first glance, it looks very similar to what I had before, but there's been a number of improvements that have been done to this cabinet to make it easier to work with. I've had a number of few issues I had when I originally put some buttons and things in, and I've refurbished it and put in the new buttons and things, and I wanted to go ahead and show it to you. Alright, so let's go and start out with the front now. Now on the front, the thing you're going to notice on the front, alright, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and show you the back and everything too. But let me go and show you on the front what I've done on the front. Then we'll go to the back and I'll show you what I've done on the back. Now, you're going to notice that the front and everything looks very similar to the original Pandora's Box 5S arcade cabinet I had, but I did make a number of improvements. One of the issues I had on my Bartop arcade machine was the actual action buttons. The actual buttons that I use for all the fighting games and everything, the actual action buttons, I originally had buttons like these that were originally LED light-up buttons for the action buttons. The problem I had is they were not able to hold up to the abuse that I had. I actually had some of the buttons actually broke, so as a result of that, I actually had to replace them with original arcade buttons. Now, these are the buttons that I use on my current arcade machines, as you're going to see, like the one back here. These are the buttons that are actually used on my original arcade machine. I've had buttons on these arcade machines for 10 to 15 years, and they've never broken on me yet. So what I did is I actually converted the action buttons on this cabinet to the buttons I use on all my current arcade machines now. That's the difference, both on player 1 and on player 2. Now the 1-player, 2-player buttons are still the original buttons I had on the original unit now, and it seems to be working a lot better now with the setup that I have. Joysticks and everything remain the same. Okay, now let me go and show you some improvements I did on the back. Now, one of the things you're going to notice in the back of the cabinet now is, in addition to cleaning up the wires and everything that I had in the back now, I now have an amplifier system here in the back. As you can see there, I use a LePay 2-channel amplifier now in the back now to handle all the power and everything coming all the speaker power and everything coming out. Produces a much cleaner sound on my arcade machines, and I also have another big improvement back here too. If you're going to notice in the side now, I actually replaced the standalone speakers that I had with these brand new pinball speakers. There's one on the left and then there's one on the right. These are the brand new pinball speakers I have, and these are much more powerful than the ones I had in here previous, as you can see now. And also they're flush mounted on the cabinet, which works a lot better, and they work very well with this LePay amplifier that I have now. Really makes a much cleaner sound than I had on my previous videos with these Bartop arcade machines. And as you can see now, in the side now too, I now have new cutouts and everything now for the speakers and everything now. Much better setup than what I had before. Alright, now I also made a couple improvements on the inside of the cabinet as well, that I'm going to show you as well. Now let me go and put the camera back here so I can show you the next thing that I did. Alright, I'm going to move this up a little bit closer. Now, one of the other things I had too, the original Bartop arcade machine that I had, the wiring harnesses and everything that were inside here, I was having a problem with the wiring harnesses and everything getting tangled up inside. So what I did is I completely redid all the wiring on the inside here, so I'm going to show you here. On my cabinets, one of the features on my cabinets is when I need to service them, I can actually lift the control panels up and service them. But what I did is I made an improvement. I made an improvement on the wiring harness now. As you're going to see, the wiring harness now is underneath here. If you look at the wiring harness, it's much cleaner than it was on previous. I've cleaned up the wires and everything now too, and now I've made it now where when I need to service them, I can just pick it up like this. I've added additional length to the wires and everything by rerouting them. Now I made it easier, so when I have to refurbish it, I can just take the cabinet, pick the control panel out. Alright, let me show you how that works again. Okay, I can actually lift the control panel out, and then I just flip it over to the back side, and then I can set it in here like this, and this allows me then to be able to actually service the control panel and everything in here. Now everything on the inside here is pretty much the same, but there is one exception that I made. I'm going to show you here in the video. If you remember, I was telling you about how reliable the arcade machines were on my other arcade machines. Well, one thing I did is all my arcade buttons now, all the action buttons, in addition to having new buttons that actually activate them like I have on my arcade machines, I'm also using X Gaming arcade switches as well for all the action buttons. It's a little easier to make moves and things in games and things, and they're a little softer, which makes it easier to perform moves and everything as well. And as you can see, the joysticks are still the same, the Ls232s. So this is one of the main improvements that I've done to the cabinet. In addition to that, I also rerouted all the wires and everything as well. You know, made sure all the wiring and everything was cleaned up. Made it look a little nicer inside now as well. All right, guys. So now you got to get a chance to see what it actually looks like. Now let me go and put the control panel back in. And I'm also going to show you something else too that's really cool too. What we're going to do is something else I did too. On a previous cabinet that I had, I also remounted the monitor and everything on the inside. My monitor and everything I had on the inside was mounted pretty well, but I also went ahead and I remounted the monitor as well to make it a little bit more flush with the glass now too, and really worked out well. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and give you a little tour and show you what the legacy Bartop arcade machine here has and how I basically constructed it. Okay, now I want to mention that if you're going to notice similarities between this cabinet and also the Pandora's box cabinet that I actually built here. Now this original cabinet that I made is two players, and they have 6 buttons each: a one-player, two-player start button, and one player and credit button there as well. So you're going to see the original one I built has a lot of similarities to the one that I have. They both have LED lighted buttons. Okay. Now this is actually running the Pandora's Box 5S. That's what the original cabinet that I made built ran. Now the newer cabinet that I have, the Legacy cabinet, it's very similar to the other one. The only difference is instead of having 2 players, it's only 1 player, but it has a trackball unit over here that allows you to do trackball as well. Okay, now let me go and show you what the back and everything looks like. Okay, now you're also going to notice too, unlike the Pandora's box, this actually runs, the original cabinet actually runs a Pandora's 5 board to actually run it. This cabinet actually runs what's called a Raspberry Pi. Now let me go ahead and show you what the back and everything looks like. The backs and everything are very similar to both machines. Okay, they both use the Logitech speakers. Okay, now you're going to notice too that one of the differences is I do have a power supply back here. Now this is just used to run the LED lights and the control panel that I have up front. The actual Raspberry Pi actually plugs into the power strip as well. There's actually an adapter that powers the Raspberry Pi, which is what I use to run this actual system. The handles and everything that I have are basically just like the other one. I have handles in the front and back. Okay, and you're going to notice even the profile and everything is the same as well. Just like the original one that I made, this has the same profile. Okay, now let me go ahead and show you some of the inner workings and things, and then I'll show you how the menu system and things works as well for picking out games and things to play on this. Okay, so let me go ahead and mount the camera here, and I'll actually show you what the inside of this looks like as well. Okay. Now, same as the other cabinet. When I want to service this, I can actually pick it up. I can actually lift the control panel out. I can flip it over to service it, just like I could do with the other ones. Okay, and I'll show you what's on the inside here as well. Make sure that's going to stay put. Okay. Yeah, so let me go ahead and I'm going to show you what's on the inside as well. This little box right here, that's actually the Raspberry Pi. This is using a Raspberry Pi 3B that's actually used to run this. All the connectors and everything to power the Raspberry Pi come in through these USB connectors that you see here. The keyboard and everything's plugged in here. I do have a keyboard connected as well, so I can do game lists and things like that using the keyboard. I do have that plugged into the Raspberry Pi as well. And then on the inside, there's 2 cables coming in. There's also one here for the trackball, and then there's one here for the arcade unit that comes in to transfer all the movements and everything from the keys and everything. Now, one of the things you're going to notice is the actual equipment that I'm actually using. I'm using 2 Seimitsu Ls232 joysticks. The same ones that I use on all my arcade machines are actually used on this one, just like I had on the Pandora's 5 machine as well that I made. Now, one of the differences is this actually uses an encoder board. Now, you can get things like an iPad controller and everything that will work with the Raspberry Pi. I'm actually using the X-Arcade game board I use on my arcade machines because I found that the X-Arcade machine works pretty good with the Raspberry Pi, and that's one of the reasons that I chose to use this connector board as well. So I'm using an X-Arcade, basically an X-Arcade Billion arcade kit controller board. That's actually what's converting all the keystrokes and everything and sending them into the computer. That's done through this board right here. Okay, now the trackball I'm actually using, this is an X Arcade trackball from X Gaming. This is the same trackball they have if you buy a tank stick and everything as well. That's what I'm basically using for the trackball unit as well. Okay, now you're also going to notice too that the rest of the construction is pretty much the same as I had on the other arcade machine. Now, all the wires and everything that you see coming in here, these are all running through the power supply. It's actually powering all the LED lights and things I have in here as well on the underside of the control panel as well. Okay, now let me go and mount the camera here, and I'll show you what the actual menu system looks like that I actually used to make all this work. Okay, let me go put the control panel back in place. Okay, control panel's back in place. Let me turn the light off here so I can show you this too. What I'll do too, I'll go ahead and I'll show you a little bit of gameplay as well. I'll do a game of Robotron just to show you as well, just a little bit of gameplay as well. Now, the Raspberry Pi has a program called Retropie, and what it does is it uses MAME. This is a MAME-based system on here as well that runs this. The Retropie version I'm using, this is the MAME. This is what's called the MAME Liberto. That's actually what I'm using. If you load Retropie, these are all running on what's called MAME Liberto under here. That's what I'm actually running these on. So let me show you one game of Robotron, then I'll show you what the menu system looks like. Okay? So to put a credit on, I do my yellow button, and then this is my start button. And then it uses both joysticks, both joysticks together. I needed to have two joysticks for games like Robotron and Smash TV and Total Carnage. They all use two joysticks, one for the movement and one for the firing here, as you'll see here. You're going to find too that the Raspberry Pi really does a good job playing these games. They all run pretty smoothly. Now, I'm not running any real complicated games, more or less simpler games and things like that, because the Retropie is the Raspberry Pi is a little limited on some of the games it can run, but I find with games like this it does just fine. I haven't had any problems at all with it. And this is a game, like I was saying, that my dad and I used to play all the time. Okay, so that's just some. I'm going to have gameplay and things from games on here as well. When you go to my channel, just look under Legacy Arcade Bartop, or Legacy Bartop Arcade Machine. I have to decide what category I'm going to use. I think we're going to have it under Legacy Bartop Arcade. Legacy Bartop Arcade is going to be the category that's going to be under. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this now. I actually have it set up so I use the keyboard to actually exit out of this to make, because I found that works pretty well on this. Now, the actual menu system that it uses, I actually have this mounted under favorites. Now you're gonna notice there's many ways to organize all the different games and things, but this is what I basically use on this one. I actually have all my games organized under favorites that I pick from the main menu that I have. Okay. Now you're going to see that there's going to be two types of menus. There's going to be a favorites menu, and then you're also going to have a menu here for MAME. Now these are going to be all the main games that I have available. Okay, these are all the games that I currently have available under MAME. What I would do is when I pick a game, you can actually add it to a favorites list as well. Now if you want to know how you go about loading all these MAME games and everything into the Retropie, there's a lot of videos in there that also will tell you how to set up the whole system. To get the MAME system working that I have here currently, that I'm currently running on here, it took me about 2 months. From the time I learned how the system worked to building this machine, took about 2 months to actually learn how to do it. Now right now I currently have 50 games available under favorites right now, currently on the system. Now, one of the really cool things about the Retropie is there's a program called Scraper. And what Scraper does is if you go to Scraper, it reads all the ROMs that you have, and then it'll give you information about each of them. Like it'll have screen clips and things like that, like I have here. Then also will tell you a little bit about how the game actually works. So you learn a little bit about how the game works. This is a really, really cool interface. Now, keep in mind, there's a lot of ways to customize this as well. This is a pretty simple version. I don't want to have anything too complicated, and I found that this works pretty good. But basically, when I find a game I want to play, I just go to the game I want. Go to the game I want. Now, for example, we'll go to Total Carnage. Then I just hit this button here, and that actually will start the game up too. Okay. And then it's going to go in. And now this is using what's called LR MAME 2003. That's the actual MAME version that this is using. It's called LR MAME 2003. If you want to know what type of games and everything this supports, you can just go online and read a lot of documentation. I read dozens of documents on LR MAME 2003, what type of games it uses and where to get ROM sets and things as well. But I find it does a really good job running a lot of really cool games. And like I said, I'm going to have a lot of videos and things coming up that are actually going to have these games and things playing. Now, one of the really cool things about this, too, is that this does use full stereo sound. The Raspberry Pi produces in full stereo. So if you have left and right speakers like I have, it produces in full stereo, which is pretty cool. Okay? So that basically gives you an overview of basically how the system actually works, how the actual system works too. And like I was saying before, Robotron's a game that my dad and I always used to play, and this is one of the reasons I dedicated this system to my dad as well. Okay, let's go ahead. Now I'm going to show you the Traveler Bartop arcade machine that I built down here in my basement arcade. Now, just to recap, the two machines that I've already built down here in the basement arcade, I'm going to go and show you. They're on the Bartop right now. Okay, the first one I built, this is the one that runs the Pandora's Box 5S here. This actually is my look for the Pandora's Box 5S arcade machine. That's this one here. The second bar top that I built, this is the Legacy bar top arcade machine. This one is actually dedicated to my dad. Now, the third one that I have, this is going to be the Traveler bar top arcade machine. Now, to give you a little background on this machine, this machine originally was an iCade 60-in-1 machine. I don't have the iCade bar top machine anymore. I actually converted it over to this right here. It's the same CAD and everything that the iCade machine had, but it's now running on a Raspberry Pi front end, okay, with a Raspberry Pi. Let me go ahead and show you some dimensions and things here on the cabinet as well, so you can get an idea how big it is. Now, the one thing you're going to notice different about this is the way the monitor is mounted is different. The original cabinets actually have the monitors mounted horizontally, as you can see here, the same way you would have on your computer. That's how these cabinets are actually mounted with the monitors. This cabinet actually has a monitor mounted up and down for games like Pac-Man and things like that. The primary games you have to realize when you're building these is what you're going to be focusing on. These machines over here focus on games more that are the horizontal variety, like Robotron, Mechanical Toy, games like that, Missile Command, that are in the horizontal orientation that these screens are at. This one's dedicated more for machines that are in the upright format, like Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, things like that, to give it that true arcade aspect. So that's why the monitor's mounted up and down inside the cabinet. Now, you're also going to notice as a result of that, the other cabinets are actually a little shorter. As you're going to see, they're actually shorter because the monitor sits lower because it's mounted horizontally. On the ones that are vertical that go up and down, the cabinet's going to be a little bit higher, but it's also going to be a little bit narrower here, as you can see with the control panel. Now, one of the things that makes this cabinet unique is the fact that this is a Traveler arcade is, if you look on the cabinet, I'll show you from the side, the profile and everything on the side is very similar to what I had before, but the difference is there's actually a hookup here where I can actually hook a handle on here that will extend up, and then I actually can use this as a luggage carrier. And on the back here, there's actually wheels here that are actually mounted into the back. So this actually is portable. I actually take this to different places and things when I go on my vacations and things. Now, you're going to notice, too, that in the back of the machine, everything back here is pretty compact. One of the things about the Traveler is everything is very, very compact. Like I have my speakers and everything here, but you can see how there's not a whole lot of room back here. Everything's pretty tight. It has a standard power strip that I use on all my cabinets to basically power everything. It's got the speakers mounted on the left and right. It's got the Logitech speakers. It's got a power supply mounted in here. Now, this power supply just powers the LEDs. The actual power for the Raspberry Pi comes off here, comes off of the power strip here. And then everything else pretty much is standard as with all my cabinets. I have a handle on the back for lifting it, okay? And it also has the same metal construction that all the other cabinets have with a metal framework inside here to make this cabinet very, very strong. This cabinet is absolutely rock solid when I build these. Okay. Now also it has the speakers coming out on the side here as well. As you can see, there's a speaker output here. Okay. Now one difference this cabinet has is a keyboard. On the original cabinet I did not have a small keyboard. This is actually using a small keyboard. This is actually using a wireless keyboard, which is a lot smaller than my previous cabinet. I'm going to be eventually converting the other cabinet over to that as well for the keyboard and things like that. Now let me go and show you some of the features and things and what it looks like inside this machine as well. Okay, and then as usual it has a handle on the front too. Now one thing unique about this cabinet is because it's portable, it actually has a headphone jack. I can actually plug my headphones in here and use my headphones when I'm in a hotel room or something so I don't disturb other people. Now this machine has traveled, so far I've taken this machine on my trips to Atlantic City so far, and I've had a lot of fun with it. So this machine has actually traveled on the road already with me. And you're going to notice too that because of the fact that it's a traveler bar top, it is a little narrower. This cabinet's designed basically with the minimal amount required. It's basically just as wide as the monitor. That's why it's a lot more compact, so it can be carried easier for traveling purposes. Okay, let me go ahead and mount the camera here on the tripod, and I'll show you what the inside of this machine looks like. And then we'll do a little gameplay too for you, just to show you what it looks like, and I'll also show you the interface too. Okay, let me move the camera here, let me here so you can see this. Now, the control panel features the standard buttons that I had on the other machines. It has the Siemens Ls232 joystick, and it also has the same buttons that I got from Holland Computers. These actual push buttons here are lighted with LEDs. Okay. Now, just like all my other cabinets, the actual glass and everything that's mounted here, this is actually 1/4-inch glass, real glass. This is not plexi. This is a real glass. It's 1/4-inch thick, so it can take a beating. When I use this as a luggage carrier, what I do is I set my luggage on top of this, and then I actually have bands that hook from here to here and wrap around, so my luggage can sit on top of this. And that way I can take it and use it as a luggage carrier, and it works really, really well. And then I just put a bag over the top of this when I go through, and nobody even knows the difference between this and the luggage carrier. Okay? Now let me go ahead and show you what the inside looks like. As usual, I can lift the control panel out, as you can see here. Same thing with the other cabinets. If I need to service this, the control panel actually lifts out, and then I can actually service this machine just like with the other ones. I can actually set this on top so I can actually work on this. On the inside here, once again, it's a Siemens Ls232. I do have a controller board in here that basically converts all the signals for the Raspberry Pi that's inside here. This is actually a converter for it, just like an iPad. That's what this is right here, and it converts the signals into here. And then there's a wire that feeds the LED lights that you see on the inside. Okay. Now on the inside, let me show you what's on the inside here too, so you can see that. Now on the inside, we actually have in the back here, there's actually a Raspberry Pi that's actually mounted on the inside that actually powers this as well on the inside of the cabinet. Okay, let me go ahead and show you what that looks like from this angle here so you can see that a little bit better. Okay, I'm going to take this camera off the tri-stand so I can show that to you a little bit better. Okay, as you can see right there, that actually what you're seeing there, that's actually the Raspberry Pi that actually powers the whole unit. Now, this actually is a clear case variety, which I thought was pretty cool in this situation here, so it worked out pretty good. Then coming out of there, you can see there's two jacks there that basically come out there to feed the audio. One goes to the speakers in the back, and one goes to the audio, the jack you see right there in the front for the headphones. Okay. Then this is also powered with, there's an S-video cable then that runs through the back here that powers the monitor that you're seeing here. Okay. Let me go ahead and show you some actual gameplay. And also I'll show you what the interface and everything looks like as well. Okay, let me set my camera back here and then I'll show you the next part. Okay, let me go ahead and show you what the next part's going to be. And what we'll do now is I'll actually show you the interface that I'm using, and then we'll do a little bit of gameplay as well. Okay. All right, move this back here so you can see some gameplay. Okay, let me turn the light off here. Okay, let me move the camera here so you'll be able to see this. Should show up pretty well. Okay. All right, now the interface that I'm using on this is using Retropie. Okay, so let me go ahead and exit out so I can show you what I'm using. Yeah, this is just using a Retropie front end. This is the same front end that I have. If you look at the in more detail, the legacy Bartop arcade machine uses the same front end that this uses. Now, if I go back to the main screen, you're going to see that this is Retropie. That's actually what this is using, is Retropie. And then I actually have a favorites category. Now, the main difference with this cabinet is all the games that I have, basically they're on the game list here. This is designed with the cabinet to be up and down. So it gives it true arcade proportions. That's one thing that's really nice. Let's go ahead. We'll go ahead and we'll start out with the game of Pac-Man Plus, okay? And then basically when I want to load it in, this is a game of all the games that I have. Now, I'm currently using these games are all running on the main Liberto that's on the Raspberry Pi Retropie front end that I have, okay? Let's go ahead and begin a game of Pac-Man Plus. Now you're going to notice that the arcade dimensions and everything, because of the fact the monitor is mounted this way, it actually gives you true arcade dimensions versus having it on a monitor that's actually smaller. This gives you the true arcade dimensions here. That's why this monitor is mounted up and down the way it is. Okay, so let's go and begin a little bit of gameplay. When I want to credit up the machine on here, on the control panel, I push this button here for credit, and then I actually hit this button for start. And let's do a little bit of gameplay on Pac-Man Plus. Now I do have it set on the fast speed setting. So as you can see, the gameplay and everything on this is pretty smooth. Pac-Man Plus is always a lot of fun too because of all the ways that it changes, the different features that it has. One thing I always liked about Pac-Man Plus too. We'll see how far we can get on this game here. I wanted to mention too that also in the video now, I do have some Las Vegas videos and things that I put up as well now. I've been in the process of putting ones up that I had from my vacation from last year. And there's also some room videos and things as well now that I have too. You're going to notice that also, like with Pac-Man Plus, sometimes when you eat power pellets and things, not all the ghosts change. Which is one of the things that's pretty cool about this. Is it's a little different than Pac-Man. It's an upgrade on Pac-Man, but very, very cool. And also I want to mention too, this cabinet does produce in full stereo, left and right channels as well on the back. And the monitor I'm using this cabinet has, if I remember correctly, has an LG 17-inch monitor, if I remember correctly, on this last time I checked it. As you can see, the screen and things will black out and stuff. That's one of the things that makes Pac-Man Plus very unique. And I also want to mention too that if you have an arcade machine or something that you built and you'd like to showcase it, feel free to leave the link at the bottom of my. Feel free to leave the link in the comment section down below. That way we can check out other cabinets people have made as well. I always try to encourage everybody to have input on any of the videos that I have, because that's one of the reasons I make these videos, as I like the fact that everybody enjoys them, and also, yeah, I enjoy seeing other people's videos as well. And also, one thing nice too is that I find it with the S video and everything too. The S video also gives you a really nice picture too. So as you can see, the performance and everything on this is pretty good. I've been very happy with the Pandora's box performance as a whole. I haven't had any problems. Now I am using the newest version of the Raspberry Pi, I meant to say, and I found that Raspberry Pi does do a pretty good job. Okay, guys, so let's go ahead and check out now. This is the latest Bartop arcade machine. I just finished this Bartop arcade machine about 3 days ago at my workshop, and this is the first time I'm actually presenting it to you. The machine's actually been undergoing testing for about the last 2 days. I've been testing out the various things to make sure everything's working fine, and the machine is functioning perfectly. So let me go ahead and tell you a little bit about the Bartop arcade machine here, and then we'll go ahead and I'll actually give you a walk around tour here so you can actually see what it looks like. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. All right, so this machine is called the Heritage Bartop arcade machine. This machine is actually dedicated to my mom. Now what I'll do is I'll give you a walk around tour here, and I'll actually show you some of the inner workings and things of this machine as well. Now let's go ahead and start out by showing you the screen and everything else too. Now this Bartop machine is constructed exactly the way the other Bartop machines are constructed. Let me show you the other Bartop arcade machines too, so you can see how this is related to the other ones too. Okay. Now this Bartop arcade machine here that I built, this is actually called the Pandora's Box 5S Bartop arcade machine. There is a category on my channel dedicated to the 5S Bartop arcade machine. All right, now the one we have next to it, this is the Legacy Bartop arcade machine. This is a Bartop arcade machine that was actually dedicated to my dad. There's also a category on my channel as well. If you want to check that out, Just go Legacy Bartop Arcade Machine. You can check out videos of that as well. Now, the third one that I actually made, this actually is called the Traveler Bartop Arcade Machine. This is the one that I made that actually is able to travel with me when I go places, as you can see here. This is the Traveler. Now, you're going to notice there's a lot of similarities. All my Bartop Arcade machines have handles in the front and back so they can be lifted because my Bartop Arcade machines are very heavy. They weigh about 50, 60 pounds apiece, these Bartop Arcade machines, because of the construction and everything that goes into them. Goes into building these. All right, so let's go ahead and check out the Heritage and see what it has. All right, now the Heritage Bartop Arcade machine has the same thing that it is. It has 1/4-inch glass inside of it to make it extremely durable, so it can take banging and everything as well. Now, what I did something different with this one. The Heritage Bartop Arcade machine is actually running a Game Elf. I'm really happy. It's running a Game Elf 412-in-1 game board, and I'm very happy with how this has turned out. Really like the menu system. The other cabinets, just to put in comparison for you, just to show you too as well, so we can have a comparison. This is running the Raspberry Pi 5S in here. That's actually what this is running. Actually, it's the Pandora's Box 5S is actually running this machine here. These are actually running this is actually running Retropie on these two here. This actually is powered by Raspberry Pi 3, as well as this one is powered by Raspberry Pi 3, and they're both running Retropie on these two. And then this one is running the Pandora's Box 5S. Now, the neat thing about this one is, this actually is running a brand new game board that I've tried called Game Elf that I've been very happy with. And I'll show you some gameplay too and things and how the features and stuff work on this as well. You know, I'll show you some gameplay and things as well too. It has a really cool menu system on here. Like when you use the joystick, you can navigate through the game list. Really cool stuff. And I like the fact that it has a little screenshot as you go through the different games. That's one of the things I really like about the Game Elf. The interface is absolutely beautiful on this machine as well. How it actually works is pretty amazing. Now, you gotta notice too. You gotta notice that the one difference is my control panel is a little bit different. Now you gotta notice something different on this. You're gonna notice that this control panel, I'm not on this machine. This one's not using LEDs. This machine is a machine that's built to last. What I've discovered with the LEDs, I do like the look of the LEDs, but I want to have a cabinet that also reflected more of my classic arcade machines than this one does. All my arcade machines feature these same buttons. What these are is these are actually. I believe, if I remember correctly, these are actually the hat micro switches that this actually has in here. But then what it does is it has regular arcade buttons I got from arcadeshops.com. I got these control buttons. But what I did is I actually have extra arcade gaming switches inside these as well. And the joystick that I have is a Seimitsu Ls232 joystick, just like I use on all my arcade machines. I mean, Ls232 I've been using for years now. The one thing I do have on this is I do have a Suzo-Hap. This actually is an official Suzo-Hap 3-inch trackball I'm using here actually so I can run the arcade games and things that use the trackball and stuff. I found that this is an excellent addition to this machine as well. And I wanted to be able to play the trackball games as well. So what I had to do is I actually had to offset the joystick a little bit in here in order to be able to play trackball games as well. It has all the stainless steel bolts and things that I use with all my standard Bartop arcade machine cabinets, the stainless steel bolts. It has a handle and everything for lifting from the front. Okay, so let's go and check out the back. Now, one thing you're going to notice that's a little bit different about this machine, it's constructed a little bit differently in the back. Everything from here to here is basically like all my other arcade machines, but there is one difference. You're going to notice in the back here that I am now running Pinball arcade speakers actually inside this cabinet. They're actually mounted inside the cabinet. You'll be able to see it from the construction here, how I actually built these. So unlike the other cabinets that are running PC speakers, this is actually running Pinball arcade speakers actually in the back here that are actually installed in the back, and they really make a really crisp sound. It sounds fantastic. This is by far the best sounding Bartop arcade machine I've made yet. Now you're going to notice on the inside here, everything on the inside is pretty much the way it is on the other one, but you're going to notice that I have the speakers on the left and right. Now one thing that's a little different on this one, I'm actually running an amplifier. For the first time I'm running a Ls232 amplifier that actually amplifies the signal and everything out. And I'm going to show you the other side of this amplifier too to show you how the controls and everything work as well. I have my standard power strip down here as usual. On the inside, I'm actually going to show you in the video, I'm going to show you what the actual Game Elf and everything looks like inside. All right, so let's go ahead and check out the other side. And then I'll actually show you how the control panel and everything lifts out as well. Okay, now on the back side here, you'll actually get a chance to see the actual controls. Now, I'm going to turn the camera here so you can see this a little bit better. But on the actual controls on this Ls232 here, I actually have a volume control here. I can control the volume here. I can also control the bass and the treble, and the speakers and everything connect into the back of the lapel amp. This amp was absolutely wonderful amp for using this. The thing that's nice about having this amplifier is because the fact this machine, because I wanted to be able to adjust the volume and things easier without having to go to the main game menu. This allows me to do that, to adjust it easily. I can go up or down. The previous cabinets I had actually had PC speakers that actually had a volume control on the speakers. But because I'm using pinball machine speakers, this actually had an amp that actually powers it. Now, I've been told you can power the game out, that the game out can power the speakers without the amplifier, but I found by having the amplifier on here, not only does it look really well, but it also works really well too, and allows me to adjust the sound very easily up or down. And you're going to find these pinball speakers also. Here's a good example of what they look like. There's one on the left and there's one on the right. These are the actual speakers that I'm using. And I have cutouts that actually let the speaker go through. And it really, really works well compared to the other cabinets that I have. This is different on this one from the other ones that I made. And I'm going to continue all my future Bartop arcade machines are now going to use these speakers. I'm very happy about the fact that it allows me a little extra room inside for working and things. Okay? So what I'll do now is let me go ahead and I'm actually going to show you how the control panel and everything comes out and show you the actual inner workings of the machine as well. All right, let me bring the camera a little closer here so you can see how this actually works. Now, as you remember, all my Bartop arcade machines feature, and also my arcade machines feature removable control panels. Now, these control panels are actually made by me in-house. This is my own custom design for these control panels that I actually use on my Bartop arcade machines. And the way they work is, you can actually lift the you can actually lift the control panel up like this. You can actually lift it out, and then you can actually put it off to the side. And you're going to see that there's a wire harness and everything here that actually connects into the arcade board on the inside. All right, and I'll show you the underside of this as well, so you can see what this looks like underneath as well. All right, let me set that there. All right, now I'm going to show you what the inside of this machine looks like. Now you're going to see on the inside, this is where the I actually have a power supply in the back. I have a standard power supply in the back. Let me show you that power supply again too, so you can see that from the back too, so you can see what I'm using. Okay, in the back here, it's a little hard to see, but I have a standard power supply in the back here that you can get off the arcade side. It's a standard power supply. Okay, and what that power supply does is, this is the actual game elf board actually inside. This is the actual game elf board right here, and then it uses a standard JAMA connector that's actually in here. All right, and these are all the cables and everything that run out here, and then these actually go out to the control panel here, and then inside the control panel, okay. This is what I was telling you about the buttons. I believe the buttons that I have, these are the standard arcade buttons that I actually use. I have different arcade buttons I use, but I did get these buttons from arcade shops, and these do work really well. Now, the triggers that I use, the actual switches themselves, these are actually X-Arcade switches that I actually use in here, the white and black ones from X Gaming. I actually use inside here. Now, this is the Ls232 joystick I was telling you about. You're going to notice that it's just like the other cabinets. It's bolted through with stainless steel bolts. And then this is the mounting for the Suzo Hat, for the Suzo Hat 3-inch trackball that I actually use for this unit. And you can see it has the same construction the other ones have. Then you can also see that the thing that's nice about these is it leaves me plenty of room in here, and it has a standard handle that goes through here for lifting. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm actually going to go ahead and show you some actual gameplay here so I can show you how this actually works. All right, let me put this back on here. All right, we're going to go and put the control panel back on. And you're going to see the control panels and everything too. The thing that's nice is with these wires and everything, this allows me to take the panel completely out so I can service it. If a button or something comes loose, I want to be able to reach it so I can tighten it up if something comes loose. That's one of the things that's unique about my cabinets. All right, so I'm going to put this back in place. Okay. All right. Now what I'll do now is I'll actually go ahead now and I'll show you some gameplay. I'm going to go ahead and turn the light out here so you can see the gameplay a little bit better. All right. Let me turn this so you can see it. Okay. Now, like I said, this is going to have its own category, so I am going to be bringing you some more videos and things of gameplay and things as well over the next few months too. Remember, this is going to have its own category, and remember, it's going to be under Heritage Bartop Arcade Machine, and this is going to be the one that's dedicated to my mom. All right, so let me go ahead and get this so you can see the screen. Okay. Now I'm actually going to show you how the game menu works. So the way the game menu works on this game is, this is one of the really cool things I like about the Game Elf. You actually are able to navigate different screens here. Using your joystick, you can go through different screens. This right here will actually tell you how to go to different games and things too. Now, things like the coin in and the timer and things like that, you can adjust all those from the settings and everything that you have on this game as well. This can be totally customized to meet to however you want to have it actually working. That's one of the things that's really cool. So what I'll do is let me go ahead and show you a game of Miss Pac-Man. Let me go and show you a game of Miss Pac-Man. Okay, we'll do a Miss Pac-Man speed up so I can actually show you how the game actually works. Okay, now when you want to start a game, you just push the one player button, and what it's going to do is it's going to load it into it's going to actually load it in, and you're going to see the loading times don't take very long on this. It's very, very efficient how it loads them in. And what I'll do is I'll just give you a couple little clips of a couple games so you can see how it works. Okay. Now you're going to notice that the sound on here too is really cool. The sound actually does come out very well out of both speakers. When I actually plugged the Game Elf into the headphone jack on the actual Game Elf, I ran that in the amplifier, and it works very, very well. And it provides a really, really clean, crisp sound. That's one thing I love. All right? And you're going to see the gameplay and everything too is also pretty fast here too. Really, really nice board here. Now the great thing about this is, some of the actual boards, like when you're playing a game, like if you have the 61, for example, you have to die before you can exit. Not with the Game Elf. With the Game Elf, I can exit anytime I want. So I'm gonna show you how I do that. So when I want to exit a game, all I do is I hold the one player button down, and when I hold the one player button down, after about 3 seconds, there's going to be a screen that actually comes up and allows me to exit the game. And then I just hit the one player button and it goes right back to the main game menu. And that's one thing I love about the Game Elf, is the fact it's so easy to navigate. Even my brother and his girlfriend can actually play this, which is nice. You don't have to have any programming or anything to play this, because this is actually all programmed into the Game Elf board when you buy it. Now, the one thing I was going to suggest about getting a Game Elf board, I actually bought my Game Elf board directly from the manufacturer. I paid about $30 less. I think they got this, I think it was made in Japan or China. It was actually shipped. Now the only thing is, because I bought from the manufacturer, it took me about 3 weeks to get my game board. It took a little bit longer, but the great thing about it was, I also saved $30 on the game board as well. And you're going to see there's other versions of this as well, of this Game Elf as well. All right, so let's go and begin another game. Let's go and try some Donkey Kong. Now, and you're going to notice that when Donkey Kong plays, you're going to notice too that the sound and everything is very crisp on Donkey Kong as well. And then I insert a credit. Now, the other thing too is you can also have your Game Elf set to free play. I like to have a credit button on my machine, but you can have your Game Elf set to free play as well if you'd like to. All right, so we'll do a little bit of gameplay here on Donkey Kong. Okay. And I find that most of the games and everything are pretty faithful to the originals as far as the sounds and everything go. I've been pretty pleased with the games so far that I've played. And I've played about 20 different games. And like I said, I'm going to have videos coming up in the future too, where I'm going to actually show you other games and everything playing on here on the Heritage Bartop arcade machine as well. All right, so there's Donkey Kong. So let me go ahead and exit out of this. And that's one thing, I do love the menu system. Okay. Now, one thing I will show you. Somebody did ask me how the trackball games and everything works. So let me show you. I'm going to bring up a trackball game and show you. All right, let's do a game. Let's play a game of I'll show you what Millipede looks like. Okay. Now you're going to find. Now, what I was going to mention is that I have found on this Bartop arcade machine that when I use the Suzo Hat 3-inch trackball, The 3-inch trackball seems to work pretty well with the game out. Now, it's not quite perfect as it would be if you had it like in a main machine, like when you would build by hand, but it's still pretty good. It's good enough. I can definitely get by without having any problems. So let me go and just show you how the movement and everything is. Now I'm using the trackball right now, and you're going to see that the movement and everything is pretty fluid in this game as a whole. It's pretty relatively fluid as a whole. See, I can move around everything just fine. All right, so you can see I can move around this game. I can move around the game screen and everything pretty well, just using the controls here that I have. All right. So you can see that the movement is pretty smooth. I can move around pretty well with this. It works out pretty good. All right, now let me exit out of this. Okay. All right. What I want to show you next is I do want to show you how you access the actual menu system on this game as well. So let me go and take the camera off the tripod so I can show you the actual buttons that I use for the actual testing and everything too as well. Now on my Bartop arcade machine, let me turn the light on so you can see these buttons a little bit easier when I do this part. Okay, what I actually have on my Bartop on this is I actually have a test button right here. You're going to notice that on the board itself, there's a test button you can press in on the board itself, but I want to have access, so I actually have a test button here as well that I actually can access here. By pushing this button in here, when I turn on the arcade machine, you're going to see it doesn't do anything here, but when I turn on the game board, I'm going to show you what happens when I power it back up, what I can do that makes it pretty nice. Now, normally when you power this up, I'm going to show you what the intro screen and everything looks like as well, so you can see what that looks like as well. Okay, I just turned on the power. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this red button down, and this is actually the test switch. Okay, the screen's going to come up, as it usually would. But now I'm actually going to hold down the test switch. And what this is going to do, by holding down the test switch, this is going to allow me to get into the test mode for the game. Now, you're going to see the test screens come up. You have to hold that button down. I hold it just down for a second till the screen comes up. Okay, and that's one of the reasons I have the red button installed here. On the inside of the game board, there's a button you can press, but I didn't want to have to lift the control panel off to access the service switch. So what I did is I actually installed the service button here, so I don't have to lift the control panel off. And then this is going to be the actual screen that comes up. Now, there's a lot of videos on YouTube that are actually going to tell you how to set all these. You know, how to do, you know, you can do things such as coin settings on here. You can flip, you can access all the game settings here. Your service, you can flip the screen, you can test out the control, but this basically is how that actually works. And what you do is you navigate it using the joystick and then using the buttons. Now, one thing about my cabinet I'm going to point out too is that the way I designed my cabinet, I actually have 6 buttons. I have a 1-player start button. I have a credit button, which is the yellow button. Then the red button is for the service, for the test, so I can get into test mode. I have one button I have fire 1 button for player 1, fire 2 button for player 1, and then fire 3 button for player 1. And that was all the buttons that I actually had on my game, that I find works pretty good with the game off as a whole. But this actually shows you what the screen and everything looks like when you're in the test mode. So when you're done, you just say exit. And what it'll do is it'll actually boot it back into the main menu. Then you actually go into the game system. And then there's also a way to save this as well. Now you're gonna see the screen's gonna come back, and now I'm actually back in game mode, which is really, really nice. So that gives you an idea of what the Heritage Bartop arcade machine looks like and how it works. Good evening, my fellow friends and YouTubers. This is Kurt, and welcome back to the Kurt's Place channel here on the YouTube. Well, guys, in this video, I'm actually going to be presenting to you my 5th Bartop arcade machine that I just finished about 2 days ago in my workshop that I want to present to you today. Now, this is the Black Knight Bartop arcade machine. I'm going to go ahead and give you a little tour around the Bartop arcade machine, show you the control panel. I'm going to show you what's inside the Bartop arcade machine as well. Now, I also want to mention that in addition to this Bartop arcade machine, there are 4 other Bartop arcade machines that I build as well that are featured on my channel. Now, the other Bartop arcade machines I have, if you want to check those out, there are videos on my channel. I have the Legacy Bartop arcade machine, the Pandora's Box 5S Bartop arcade machine, the Heritage Bartop arcade machine, and the Traveler Bartop arcade machine. And this is the fifth one by Black Knight Bartop arcade machine. So let me go ahead and show you around the cabinet here, and then I'll show you what it looks like on the inside. Now, I also want to mention, too, that I do have merchandise and everything available on my channel now as well. If you want to check that out, just go to my channel, look under the description at the bottom, and you'll see a link to my merchandise store if you want to buy keychains and t-shirts and other things that I have available. Okay, now powering this right now, this cabinet actually features a 19-inch Insignia LED monitor. That's actually what's being used here for the actual monitor to display the games. Now on the control panel, there's a couple of things that are a little bit different about this one than some of the other ones that I've made. Now, this has a standard layout that I made, has a stainless steel bolts, the control panel that lifts in and out, has the one player button, the credit button, the exit button, and then it has 3 buttons for the actions on the games. It has the Siemens Ls232 Joystick that I usually use on my other arcade machines. Now, one thing that's a little different, I actually have on this one, I'm actually running a real Suzo Hap trackball on this one as well. I decided to go with the official Suzo Hap. Guys, I gotta tell you, this has been a wonderful trackball. This is a 3-inch version, and it's been beautiful. And I have another thing that also I added for the first time ever. I now have a Tornado spinner that I'm actually using for games like Tempest, and this spinner is absolutely phenomenal. I will be making a video eventually to show you how the spinner and everything works eventually in one of my other videos as well. Now let me go ahead and show you what the top and everything looks like. It has a standard layout just like my other bar tops have. Okay, it's got the lifting handle and everything on the bottom like the other ones have. All right, let me go ahead and show you the side. Okay, and then I also want to mention too that this is being powered. If you look at the sides and everything too, one thing that's a little bit different about this is this monitor is recessed a little bit further back into the cabinet on this one versus some of my other ones. It's a little further back to give it a little bit more depth and everything like that when I play my games too. Okay, and it also features, just as usual, features the 4th-inch plate glass in here as well for the monitor bezel. See, I have the usual, the pinball speakers now that I have on all my Bartop arcade machines, feature pinball machines, speakers left and right. I do have a keyboard as well. Now, this is actually being powered by a Raspberry Pi 3. That's actually what's powering this. So I do have the keyboard for doing settings and things. I have my Insignia control here to be able to control features and everything on the monitor as well. Adjustments, settings, brightness, and various things like that. Let's go around to the back. And on the back of the cabinet, you're going to see that this is being powered by the lapel amplifier that I use. I've found this is an excellent amplifier to use on all my arcade machines. All my Bartop arcade machines now are using this exact amplifier that works very, very well, and it powers these 2 pinball speakers on the left and right. I have my usual power strip down below to go ahead and power everything. And on top, I actually have my lift handle that I have, just like on the other arcade machines that I have, the other Bartops that I have. Now you're going to notice if I show you on the top here, what I was saying about it being slightly recessed. Let me go ahead and show you. If you look on the top, you're going to notice on the top that the bar top is that the glass is actually the monitor is actually a little bit further back in. It's a little bit narrower here. And what I like about that is it gives a little bit more depth and everything when you're here. It gives me about a finger length worth of depth between the monitor glass and the front of the cabinet, which I really, really like. Really gives it a nice feature to have on this cabinet. It makes it a little bit different than the other ones as well. All right, let me go ahead and show you what the control panel and everything looks like as well. Okay. And things have been doing really well here in Maryland. I hope that everything's been well for you too. It's been doing really well here for me. All right, let me come around to the other side here so I can show you what we have here on the control panel. Now, as usual on this Bartop arcade machine, my control panel is removable. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and set it down here on the table so I can actually show you what's inside here. Okay, so on these, I just lift it out. I can lift it up. Then I can actually set it down on the table to actually work on it. All right, so let me go ahead and take the camera off here so I can show you what's on the inside. Okay. Now on the inside on the cabinet right in here, inside here I actually have my Raspberry Pi 3 is actually mounted right here, and my cables and everything go into the Raspberry Pi 3 here. Now on the control panel side of things, this is where I have my tornado spinners, the tornado spinners right here. Okay, and then I have my controls and everything here. And then I actually have the Suzo Hat trackballs actually mounted here with the stainless steel screws in it. Then I have my Seimitsu Ls232 joystick here, and then I have my usual fire buttons, and then I also have my encoder board actually mounted right in here. This is actually what transfers the computer signals from the keyboard and the keystrokes for the gamepad. It actually works very well, very smooth way that works. And I like the fact too it has an LED to tell me that everything's working fine. I have my label wires and everything labeled to know where they go, and you can see the control panel is not very complicated, but it works very well for what I have. Okay, you'll see on the inside there how nice I have everything finished out now too now. All right, what I'll do now, let me go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and mount the control panel, and I'll just show you a little bit of gameplay here on this Pac-Man. Then we'll actually go ahead and wrap up the video. All right, let me go and mount this back on the tripod. There we go. Okay, I'm going to put my control panel back in. Okay. So what we'll do is I'll just do a little gameplay here on this Pac-Man for you here. Then we'll go ahead and wrap up the video. So I have my credit button here, and my start button here. So as you can see, the sound and everything on this Bartop and everything works really well. That's one of the reasons I've been very happy with the Raspberry Pi 3. I'm running Retropie on this, and Retropie does a really good job with these games that I have. Okay. Now what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and show you what the menu system looks like as well on this too. Okay, so I've had some people ask me, what does my Retropie menu look like? I'm actually going to go ahead and show you what it actually looks like when I select games. So when I want to exit games on this cabinet, I hold these two buttons down, and then I actually go to a screen here. This is my quick menu screen, and from the quick menu screen, I can actually quit the game. And that actually brings me into the main menu. Now this is the main menu that I have currently set up for Retropie. Now you can change this depending how you want to have it, but this is how I like to set up my arcade machines. I have a favorites folder, and what I do is I like to have there's a thing called Screen Scraper that I load. That's how I get the game images, and it tells you a little bit about the game. You know, it tells you what year it came out, tells you how many players it is, and it gives you a basic description of the game. Now, if I hit the back button, these are my favorites, but the actual main games I have as well. This is the actual screen that you have on Retropie. If I go to settings, like if I go to Retropie here, this is actually for my settings. I can go to my configuration. This will allow me to configure all the features I want to have on Retropie from this screen right here. Like I can do the setup and everything else from Retropie. Now, if you need to know how Retropie works, there's lots and lots of videos on YouTube that will tell you how to set up Retropie. That's how I learned how to do it. I just watched a bunch of videos that they had on Retropie. Okay. Now if I go to MAME, this is actually my MAME folder. Now I'm actually running MAME 2003 on this right now. I find that MAME 2003 works really well. It works especially well with the trackball and everything too. Now if I select the menu here for MAME, this will bring up all the games that I have. And then what I do is from this menu, I can go through the games, and it'll give me a little bitty description about each of the games that I have here. And then I can determine if I want to add them in favorites or not by pushing this button here. And that's how easy MAME is to set up. Now, I was going to mention that if you do have other games, you can also you can skip through a menu as well. Like if you want to skip to a letter, you can do that as well. It gives you the option for being able to skip to a letter as well. Really nice setup here that they have on the Retropie to be able to play the games. Like if I want to play Pac-Man or I want to play Pac-Land, Then what I would do is I would just hit the start button here, and then what it does is it's going to load the ROM. It's going to load the ROM into the game for me, so I can go ahead and see what it looks like. And then I can determine if I want to keep the game or not, or I want to add it to favorites. And you're going to see it's going to load the ROMs in there. And it'll bring up the actual game. Now keep in mind that my cabinet's actually designed with the games mounted up and down, but because I want to have like Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man, that's why the monitor's mounted this way. You can also have the monitor mounted the other way, and if you look at my videos, you're going to notice that the Pandora's Box 5S and the Legacy Bartop arcade machine, they have the monitors mounted the other direction. You'll see in that video. And that basically is how it works. And then when I want to exit out, I just hold these two buttons down, and then that brings me back to my screen. And then I can actually exit out from there, and it brings me back to the main game menu. So that's how easy it is to navigate on my control on the game as well. And then when I want to play a game, I just go back to I have it saved under favorites. I just go to my favorites folder. Then I have the game in here, and then when I want to load in a game, I just hit the start button and it'll load the game in. And that's how it works. So you can see it's not very hard to use, and I found that that these Bartop machines do really well with Raspberry Pi. I've been very pleased with the performance and everything that they've offered as well. Lag time has been very, very minimal on these. I mean, they are almost spot on as far as the games go. My advice is if you're going to do the Retropie setup, make sure that you run on MAME 2003 Liberto. That's actually what I'm actually running on this, and it works really, really well. Okay, guys, I want to thank you, by the way, again for tuning into the Kurt's Place channel here and checking out my review of the Black Knight Bartop arcade machine that I just finished in my basement workshop.